Hi, I'm Laurel Dietz. I'm from Alinea Legal Coaching. We're a family law firm with offices in Duncan and Victoria, but right now we're all working from home. And I'm here with
Bettina Plendl of Bettina Plendl Financial Divorce Strategies. I'm based in Nanaimo, but I work mainly online and virtual. I meet my clients on Zoom, and I actually serve all of BC, the entire province. And yeah, what I do is helping you fiddling through the financial part of your divorce finances.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's got to be on a lot of people's minds these days. If you're
Yes.
going through or you've been thinking about a divorce, I would think that you're kind of a little bit worried about what this might mean for it. So what are your thoughts, Bettina, generally about dividing up finances? Is now a good time? Is now a good time? What do you think?
Well, it's definitely one of those situations where you, depending, you ask two people and you get five opinions on what to do, what the market's gonna do. Most families' assets, from my experience, biggest asset is often the house. Then their savings in the form of a TFS8, RRSP, or some pension plan. And then they might have toys like boats, quads, expensive cars, all kinds of things which have a significant value. And so splitting those up is for sure a challenge. I would suggest typically we don't go straight through the middle, but it might be a good idea, especially the savings, because most likely the value of your RRSP is a little bit lower than it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Just split them at source and see what's going to happen from there. I
Yeah,
think
and if I
everything.
can just jump in there, Bettina, because you said you wouldn't recommend just dividing everything up 50 exact. And I just wanted to plug your business a little bit. I've had some clients go to you before, and the nice thing about having you work on their file is that they are able to come up with a much more creative solution to how to divide up their assets, one that serves both both parties rather than just fighting about something when you both kind of are happy with, getting the same thing. You just have to think about how to reorganize your assets. And so I can just say that with the clients I've gone to, you've certainly thought of some solutions that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be, of course, and what's the legal term for it? It should be even, fairly, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the time of relationship, what the family as a unit accumulated, you want to have that, but that both walk away based on that time frame, not what they were coming in. Kind of fairly divided, but it doesn't have to be that you sell everything and split it 50-50. It can be very different, and it needs to serve both, right? Unfortunately, a separation is hardly a win-win. But it doesn't have to be a lose-lose. So we really want to keep the family overall as a unit, especially if there's children, functional, by providing options which serve them for that
Yeah,
unity purpose.
and that's the thing with being able to negotiate your own separation agreement is you're making the decision about what's best for your family. You're sort of restructuring it. So, and that's the nice thing is you don't have to sell everything and split it 50-50, which, if you end up going to court is maybe you're not selling everything, dividing it 50-50, but often like that's what you'll see is sort of a split down the middle. And that's not necessarily what's best for everyone.
Yes, and I mean, they need to see you as a legal person as well to make sure they're not getting. I don't know if a person is in a weaker position just because they don't have all the knowledge, and they might not have been responsible for accumulating the assets, so they feel like in a weaker position. They need to make sure that their interests are covered, right? So definitely.
Yeah.
You can support them with that.
Well, I do a lot of work with my clients on strategy and discussions about kind of where their mindset is at, because often I will have people coming to me who might feel either they're more entitled to something for whatever reason than they actually are, or the other way, that they should be the peacemaker in the family and be giving up more than they're entitled to, just so that they can reach a settlement without going to court, which, you know, it's a difficult mindset to work with. But usually that's what we do some work together on that and talk about it. And if you, I find that when people understand why the law is the way it is, and the sort of philosophy behind it, they kind of are able to get to a place where they start seeing things a bit differently.
I think we're both coming from a place that we want to provide a lot of knowledge and information. So you feel like you're making a really good decision and you can craft an agreement you can stick to, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of court, so I think the courts are closed in the current situation. Is that correct?
Yeah. So right now, the only applications that are moving ahead in the court, in Supreme Court or provincial court, are emergency or urgent circumstances. And these have not thus far, I think, been dealing with property or financial aspects. It's usually more safety of people and safety of children.
Yes.
Having said that, though, something I've been discussing with my colleagues that's been coming up a little bit more and more is the concern about not being able to make ends meet. So, you know, what if people stop paying child support or spousal support, and then, you know, what do we do if we're separating right now and we're dealing with spousal support or child support? People's individual financial situations are probably going to be changing quite rapidly right now because of, you know, job security is a lot weaker.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, like in every separation, there's two steps involved, right? One is the asset split and of all the liabilities and assets a family has accumulated, and the other one are the support payments, which are definitely income related. So it will be a tough time all around, that's for sure. And I only can encourage people to talk to each other, keeping that communication open, and maybe whether you are separated or are in the process, really take this budget exercise very, very serious. Revisit where do I spend my money on, how do I make my money, and be connected with your money. So is every purchase you make, is it really something which is necessary, which needs you? What's the purpose of it, right? So basically that means going in depth on your credit card statement or bank statement. What did I spend? Was it necessary? Would there maybe a cheaper option like cell phone plans? It can add up to so much money. Do you really need all the cable? Probably right now, yes, or you're more Netflix. So just revisiting those little things which really add up. And
is that something that you work with clients on? Do you will help them do a budget if they're struggling to do it on their own? Because it does take a fair amount of self-discipline to sit down and go through what you've spent your money on. I know, you know, it's not really a comfortable thing to do.
Absolutely, it's not comfortable. And honestly, I do it almost with everybody. If people tell me, well, I spend $3,500 a month and they don't want to share on what, I'm fine with that. But then I can't offer them any assistance in fine-tuning, right? As my job is that they might want to pay out the spouse, they want to keep the house, they want to keep all the toys. They will have now this one income where all the support payments come off, plus maybe a higher mortgage due to the payout. And I need to know whether they can afford it. That's part of my job. Yeah. And if you tell me I spend $3,500, okay, but then I can't tell you whether you spend $500 a month on Starbucks, for example, and is that a necessity? So for some it is, for some it isn't, and I don't argue, but I want to just give options, right? As most of the clients I have, they really need to make adjustments, let's call it that way. And a time where you're locked down right now, it might be good to go into a deep dive of your budget, regardless whether you're separating or not, because we all have impacts on our income.
Yeah.
That's,
So, well, but if you are separating and divorcing, because that's my area of interest, this would be, you know, we were talking about this just before the call, that this would be a good time to actually nail down exactly what those family assets and debts and I guess expenses are, so that you can get to negotiating an agreement.
Yeah, I think we will see when all of this is over quite a change in relationships, maybe hopefully a few more babies. But unfortunately, probably a few people who felt after being that close for a period of time, we don't know how long, that's really not, that doesn't work anymore. We tried everything, it doesn't work. So now what? And absolutely, you're home with your files and with your computer. The internet is still working, thank goodness. Nothing, there's no overload on the internet yet. So get those documents ready and take an inventory on what you have, and maybe do some digging. Connect with the professionals like you, Laurel, or myself, and see what your options are, and just prepare that. As at this point, we don't know how long this is gonna be, and but clearly, if it's on your mind and you feel you don't know how to proceed with your relationship and you consider separation, it's a good time to prepare it.
So, what kind of documents should people be looking at? What do you normally recommend, or what do you ask for from clients when you're putting together a budget or a plan? Or
it's basically whatever has a dollar sign. So for separation, I would like to know what was your net worth when you came in, and hopefully, preferably, some proof of that. Like if you owned a home, we can do some digging around here. That's more on my part. Then on the current assets, any savings, again, you have RSP, some have a company, do your taxes, do your year end, all that. It's tax season is still going, so you're digging through a lot of information anyway, especially for a budget, which we mentioned earlier. And revisit your mortgage. The house appraisals, home appraisals are a little bit on hold right now. But again, we might need to wiggle around here anyway.
There could still potentially maybe be a market. I don't know if realtors are doing market assessments right now. I mean, those aren't necessarily accepted values if you were in court, but if you're just negotiating and you want to have a ballpark of what your house might be worth, it might be worthwhile seeing if a realtor could do a market assessment for you, and then looking at your property assessment.
Absolutely, that's an awesome. Realtors, I think they're still working as much as they can, as everybody. And then pension evaluators, they're still sitting in their offices. You can submit your information. As there's some short assessments, I would always recommend, if you have a pension plan, as it is in your own interest to have that assessed. Yes, it costs you another $500-600, but it is information which is very advantageous to have. And yeah, sorry, did you want it to?
I was just going to say, so usually with the pension, one of the good reasons to have it evaluated is so that you can sort of trade it off against other assets, which maybe this isn't the best time to be trading off assets. So
well, yeah, most pension plans which need evaluation, they have a defined benefit. Means, today, I just say an amount, you're getting $1,600 once you retire at age 65 for the rest of your life. You know that. And that is basically guaranteed. Let's see how long this crisis lasts and how close you are to retirement. I don't think that those amounts the pension plan managers put out there are going to be in discussion anytime soon. There might be in discussion, but even after 2008, I haven't heard of anybody saying, no, we have to give you less now. It's their job to make up for that shortfall.
Yeah,
And those are the pension plans. You don't know the exact value, and that's what an evaluation is for.
mm-hmm. What I was saying was that, you know, if someone was saying, okay, I want to keep my entire pension, and
Mm-hmm.
in exchange for me keeping my entire pension, you can keep the house, right? Because usually when you
Yes.
do valuations, what you do is you find out how much your pension is worth. Okay, it's worth 200,000. Oh, look, the equity in the house is also worth 200,000. So you keep the house, I'll keep my pension, and we're happy. We're walking away very
Kind
pleased,
of. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, but the challenge is right now that I guess what you're saying is that the pensions are probably, they're going to be pretty stable, you think, for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the
What is
challenge is if you're
unstable?
trying to
Yeah.
balance it against perhaps like an RSP or a TFSA or something that is quite volatile right now.
Correct. Those are the assets in question, and that is the challenge. What do we do with those? I don't have a recipe for that either right now, other than saying, well, you don't get a buyout. So exchanging let the equity in an RSP against a house, don't know how fair that is right now. And ultimately it depends on the couple, what they prefer to do, right? How urgent it is, or whether they can postpone that for a little while and just be in preparation mode right now.
Yeah, the only thing with, if you're a common law couple and you separated, then you only have 2 years to kind of get stuff resolved and finalized, or you have 2 years to start a court action, right? So if you are common law and you're not legally married still or at all, then you need to be very, very careful about, you know, waiting too long and losing your chance to
Okay.
divide up assets.
That's
So
great information. Yeah.
yeah. So for example, let's say you divorced or separated from your common law spouse a year and 10 months ago, and all the assets are in his name. You're not going to want to wait for 2 months to see what happens with those assets or to finish negotiating your agreement, because once those 2 years expire, potentially he could say, sorry, I'm not dividing anything with you, and you can't do anything about it. You had to have started a lawsuit prior to the 2 years ending if you wanted to preserve that.
Yeah. And
right.
we don't know when we can file, right? Can you file right now at all?
You can still file documents, so you can still file in Supreme Court, which deals with the property, so we can still do that. So it's still up in the air as to exactly how you can start an application for divorce, but I'm going to be figuring that out soon. But yeah, Supreme Court still accepting filings. Provincial Court is not.
Okay.
So.
Oh wow, yeah, it's things are changing. It's impacting our families for sure.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think the challenge is what we're finding as family lawyers is things where we were close right before this happened. We were close to an agreement.
Yes.
And then maybe someone's lost their job and they need to reconsider spousal support, or child support needs to be increased, or we were so close and they had, had this, okay, I'll take all the RSPs and you take the house kind of deal ready. Now that's kind of off. So we're seeing a little bit of volatility there. So it might be worthwhile for those people maybe to wait a little bit, see what happens. But definitely if you are in the midst of a negotiation, or you are very close to a negotiation, then I would recommend getting in touch with your lawyer and figuring out what do you do. Every case will be different.
Yeah, and it doesn't change that what is the asset base, for example, what's on the table is on the table. The dollar signs might change, but the nature of the assets and like if someone has shares in a company or whatever it is, right? It can be pretty complex. You still can think about, okay, how do we want to move the assets, and the value of them is for sure relevant, but not the only thing. So gathering all the information, getting the advice you need legally and financially is for sure still a good time right now.
Okay. Well, let's summarize kind of what our advice to people is right now. I think the main takeaways I'm getting is take this time to do your own budget, right? Look at your spending, regardless if you're separating or divorcing. Gather together if you're thinking about a separation, start making an inventory of, the assets and getting all the statements together of what you brought into the relationship and what you're leaving with, what exists right now. And then if you're dealing with investments, you're probably going to be considering dividing those up at source.
Yes.
But with larger assets like a pension or a house, you might still be able to do some horse trading.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the strategy around the asset base is of course, the value makes a difference, but that's step one. Step two, the support payments, that's clearly something we need to be very flexible with, and maybe revisit that and wait a little bit longer until they craft the agreement, until everybody knows what's happening.
Well, that's what you can, with an agreement, you can always build in flexibility. So you can say this amount of support will be paid for this period of time. And at that point, spousal support will be reviewed. Or you can say, we'll review spousal support. If you're wondering if the job is going to be maintained, you could say, we'll review spousal support at a later date. It doesn't have to be, the separation agreement doesn't have to be a final agreement on spousal support. That's usually how we like to do it.
Excellent. Yes.
But I think that if you're thinking about your job security, then you probably want to hold off on the spousal support question. At least making a final order for that, or a final agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. So summarizing, if you want to separate, especially now being so close and not unable to stand each other, you still can work it out, I guess.
Possible. There are a lot of ways to do a lot of legal work outside of the courts, and I recommend it. And, this might be an opportunity for some people.
Yes. Yes. And you don't, nobody really wants anybody to go to court, right? It's just important that the legal grounds are covered, and that's something you can help them with.
Yes, of course. Very happy to.
Yeah, as a legal coach, I think it's a great idea that people can get that advice and navigate around the legal stuff, basically with your help.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Feeling in charge, right? And
absolutely.
Understanding what they're doing, instead of accepting, oh yeah, okay, that's what my lawyer says, and then later they feel, well, it wasn't really what I wanted. Education is really the key. Information and education.
Well, I think both of us are in the business of providing those to our clients.
Yes, and we can work flexible from home. As long as the internet doesn't crash, everything is fine.
I've been having a little bit of a slowdown in the internet some days, but it's not too bad.
Yeah. No, thanks to whoever founded the internet, it's awesome.
All right. Well, thank
okay.
you. And I'll be in touch with you soon, Bettina.
Thank you. Yeah, keep on washing those hands, Laurel.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye.